Number 10. Will Smith. Kicking off our list is husband, father, and it turns out ex-Will Smith. In season 3, episode 12 of the series, Jada invited her husband Will onto the show so they could speak openly and publicly about the alleged relationship between herself and singer August Alsina during their brief separation in 2015. The singer claimed that he had to have Will's blessing to begin the relationship, despite the pair technically being separated at the time and, well, beyond that. Jada confirmed the relationship did in fact take place, but they were on a break. She denies that Will ever gave August permission, but when referring to the situation as an entanglement, Will snaps and makes her correct herself to say relationship instead. While it may have been playful, seeing Will Smith get mad at all after 2022 just brings pure anxiety into my soul. Number 9. Leah Remini. The world of science. It's the gift that keeps on giving. In 2015, Leah Remini wrote a memoir called Troublemaker. In the book, Leah recounts seeing Jada appearing at scientific gatherings, specifically talking about one instance in particular when Jada refused to participate in a game of hide and seek with Tom Cruise in his backyard. Why does that sound like a dream that I had? When asked on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live for her side of the story, Pinkett Smith said that she remembered things differently and that the game was more like adults innocently playing hide and seek rather than an actual thing. Remini says that she took this as textbook fair gaming, a strategy with scientific folk where they mock and then unrelentingly discredit critics of their beliefs. On Red Table Talk, Smith explained a series of tweets defending her family and their religious beliefs, and later stated that she actually grew up in a fairly liberal household and was allowed to explore all religions and just kinda chose which ones that she liked for herself. Remini reminded Pinkett Smith of her high celebrity status, stating that she was interrogated for months after simply asking one member of the crew where the leader's wife was, like not if she was alive, just how she was doing. Things ended civilly between the two, with both agreeing that despite the feud and misunderstanding, that it's never too late to heal. Ew. Number 8. Nick Cannon. TV personality and full-time baby maker Nick Cannon has been open about his disdain for the series for quite some time, denying multiple requests to actually show up on Red Table Talk. After the show's cancellation, Cannon took to Twitter to express his joy, stating that the show was toxic and added that there was too much honesty on a program, saying that he just wanted to mind his own business and asked if everyone else could do the same thing. He also claimed that if it weren't for his involvement with the program, that husband Will Smith would have never even thought of touching Chris Rock's face, but we now know that that's not the case. I understand the hate. Red Table Talk got into too much information territory way too many times to be a normal talk show, and Jada seeks out reasons to bring her family on the air constantly. I'm all for family drama, but maybe not in front of a camera being recorded to share with millions of people, especially got a book coming out anyway. Number 7. Tom Segura. Comedian Tom Segura was one of many celebrities to speak out after the now infamous Chris Rock incident at 2022. Now, I will be paraphrasing the things Tom says, as I don't want to just quote a series of bleeps over and over again. It gets rough. Tom tweeted, "This girl has been bald. Jokes about it or her are fine. It was tame AF. You super sensitive about it? Buy a wig." Boom. Roasted. While Pinkett Smith hasn't herself commented on the posts, many fans were quick to defend Jada and call out the comedian as a bully. Fans of Segura know his style, and he kept to that, responding to the haters, comparing their sensitivity to a certain member of his anatomy, before posting a video of him landing in New York City and stating, "Just landed in NYP, you dusty bald-headed snitches. See you at the show." Personally, I'd love to see Jada and Tom go head-to-head in a roast battle. If we could put that on the air instead of everything that's been on the air, that would be great. Number 6. Gabrielle Union. The beef started 17 years ago, a long time to hold a grudge, but why? Well, they don't really know. Jada brought Gabrielle onto the show to address the fact that despite the two always crossing paths and being cold with each other, that neither could remember what caused the tension. Union called Jada on the phone, and they both attempt to piece together what exactly left such a terrible taste in each other's mouth. They tried and tried, but they could not remember, and eventually Union agreed to appear on the show, where the two just kind of put the past behind them and they laughed it off, chalking it up to the drama of young divas. They had a good time on the show, just catching up and discussing life, and it actually apparently turned out pretty okay. I know this is supposed to be negative, but hey, let's all take a deep breath and just enjoy the fact that there was an okay conversation on that show one time, and only one time. Everything else is very bad. Number 5. August Alsina. Mentioned previously in the list, August Alsina is a rapper and the former love interest of the star of our list, Jada Pinkett Smith. The two first met in 2015 at a concert for Jaden and Willow Smith, and their connection was was instant. The two became very good friends as August was going through some substance control issues at the time, and Smith was this helpful hand that he needed. This would explain why over time their relationship turned romantic after Jada and Will took their brief break from their marriage, but Jada wasn't left alone. August told radio host Angela Yee that he truly and really deeply loved her. That is a direct quote. Unfortunately for August, Jada thought it would be a wonderful idea to bring out her husband Will and air out their dirty laundry on Red Table Talk. August was revealed as a secret lover, but the Smiths say that they reached a level of unconditional love within their marriage. But we all know that they've been separated for 7 years, so that was bull poo poo. Number 4, Jaden Smith. Another member of the Smith family, Jaden is remembered by many as the little guy from the Karate Kid remake, but he's now mainly known for his singing chops and fashion abilities actually. Jaden has been living in the shadow of his father from day one, being thrust into the limelight before he even hit double digits. With famous parents comes challenges, and one of those challenges seems to be a lack of hugs. The Smith kids are famously left to their own devices and have been financially independent from a very young age, meaning they never really had to ask mom and dad to help buy them something because they just did it themselves. They had the money. They can make that much now. Episode of Table Talk, Jaden confronts his mother on the way he was raised, claiming the style of parenting ruined his life and his ability to connect with people. Jaden has consistently been a good soul in the media and is extremely loyal to his fan base, something that he most certainly didn't learn from his mother. Number 3, Khloe Kardashian. Khloe Kardashian is an American personality and socialite present in the media for years, starring alongside her fellow family members on the hit show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Khloe released a series of tweets a while back claiming that men blaming the women in the relationship for all of their issues was invalid and hurtful. While this is true sometimes, many have called out the star in her comments during a very famous interview from Red Table Talk in which Jordan Woods came forward and told the truth about an alleged cheating scandal. The man in question, Tristan Thompson, claimed that Jordan performed a number of provocative activities, but she denied many of those claims. Despite this, Khloe publicly blamed Jordan for the breakup in her family and names her as an enemy. During all this, Jada Smith just kind of sat back, watched, and laughed while everything was happening, sipping her tea in a red chair. Number 2, Chris Rock. In 2022, Chris Rock was hosting the 94th annual Oscars when he decided to make a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith and her hair loss. It was a great joke. Immediately following the joke, which landed for everybody else in the audience, Will Smith stood up, walked on stage, and clocked Chris in the face. Now, initially this was seen as a joke between the two, but then Will started shouting several times at Chris to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. It's still burned into my memory to this day. Chris handled the situation well, getting back to the festivities and just kind of keeping the night going along. But then, Will Smith won the Oscar for Best Actor. Rock took to social media to address the controversy and let everybody know that he meant no harm and felt the response to have been highly extreme. He also claims that if Jada had found the joke funny, nothing would have happened. In fact, moments before walking on stage, you can see Will Smith giggling. It's almost like she whispered, "Get him," and then it activated some kind of a destruct code. Jada posted several videos claiming that Rock was dragging the situation out too long and to put the past behind him. "I'm sorry, Smith family, no Ben and Black mind eraser things here. Those aren't real. That was just a movie." It's just a movie, Nate. Number 1, Cherie Zampino. Don't recognize that name? Well, only hardcore Will Smith fans might, because Cherie is Will's ex-wife. Briefly married in the mid-90s, Will and Cherie were adorable together, regularly appearing at red carpet events and movie premieres. Adorable and inseparable. It's so cute. But behind the scenes, things weren't peachy at all. It was revealed on an episode of Red Table Talk that Jada Pinkett Smith briefly partook in an affair with Will in 1995. Jada claims that Cherie and Will were towards the end of their relationship and was simply in her eyes dating a newly divorced man. She would later admit that technically that wasn't true, and while Will was divorced hadn't really come into play yet. Cherie discovered what was taking place and went off on the couple, and not long after, ended the marriage. In 2018, the two got back together to speak candidly about the incident on Red Table Talk. Just another one of the terrible episodes that I truly recommend that you don't watch.
Number 10.
Adam Sandler. Is it really a surprise that Adam Sandler was publicly supportive of his acting buddy Chris Rock after the whole Oscars incident? Following the ceremony, Adam shared a promotional image from Rock's world tour from 2022, captioning, "Can't wait for this." They worked together for years, first meeting on the set of Saturday Night Live in the early 90s, and they starred in so many movies together, from Grown Ups to The Longest Yard to You Don't Mess with the Zohan. Yeah, remember that movie? I wish I didn't. Of course, Adam has never actually gone on camera and said that this lady is a menace, but he has certainly implied it. His post with Rock's poster was only days after the Oscars incident. Will, of course, posted an apology video regarding the incident that a lot of people felt was forced and didn't really help the situation. Adam and Chris have more than likely been roasting the Smith family over and over again in the privacy of their own homes. Number 9. Cherie Zampino. Will Smith's ex-wife, Cherie Zampino, has still been fairly involved in the lives of the Smith family. While herself and Jada supposedly get along now, it took a long time to get to where they are. During an episode of Red Table Talk, a show whose name literally raises my blood pressure, Smith and her co-hosts were joined by Zampino to have an open conversation about how their relationship had evolved over the years. She admitted that when first dating Will, she really had to fake it till she made it. Trying to have a blended family when you really don't like the other person is Jada's personal nightmare. She said it was very difficult to find common ground. Jada claimed that she wasn't mature enough at the time, and she did not properly understand the dynamics of marriage. Marrying Will meant that Cherie was going to be coming along as part of the package. Sometimes Jada was made to watch the little ones and actually shared one particularly odd story about lashing out at Cherie one day when her son Trey misbehaved at her house, berating the young boy for being a little bit too rowdy for Jada's liking. Apparently, Zampino also did not have much of a sense of boundaries, so Jada told a few stories of times when she would just come into the house and make herself comfortable. Number 8. Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie is not just the woman who famously portrayed the live-action version of Betty Rubble in The Flintstones from 1994. No. She is also the woman who voiced Turk in the Disney classic Tarzan. Now that you know who she is, let's talk about the Smith family for a sec. Following the Oscars, she tweeted that she was very proud of Chris Rock for not obliterating Will Smith when he decided to lay his hands on the comedian. Rosie claimed that if Chris wanted to, he could eviscerate Will Smith any day of the week, but instead he decided to walk away. She said, "Bravo," and called Will Smith a sad, toxic, narcissistic madman. She continued to share her hate for Will by retweeting several of her celebrity friends, and one of her main grievances with the moment was the fact that the Academy literally stood by and did nothing. No one came to the stage to make sure that Chris was okay, nobody stopped Will as he was making his way towards the stage, and the Academy's only move following the night was a 10-year temporary ban from the Oscars. How about a charge and some community service, eh? Several stars from the evening were encouraging Chris to process charges, but he ultimately decided against it, probably feeling that there wasn't a need to get lawyers involved. Number 7. Tom Segura. Tom Segura was one of the many celebrities who started bashing Will Smith after he ruined the Oscars in 2022, and I'm not gonna repeat what that situation was, okay? You gotta watch part 1 if you don't know what happened, and then come back. Tom delivered a fiery take on the infamous moment, and I wish I could quote everything he said because it is just so good. So I'm gonna paraphrase it as best as I can. Addressing Will Smith directly, he said, "Let me tell you this. The idea that his entitled rear end thinks that because his feelings are hurt, he gets to hurt one of the all-time greats, calling Will a spineless coward that was now on Hollywood's blacklist." Later on, while diving deeper into the situation on the Pat McAfee show, he explained that it was a clear move of entitlement. Will Smith in the moment decided, yeah, you know what, I want to get out of my chair and strike Chris Rock in the face. It was like something out of a horror movie. This was something that was only discussed behind closed doors, but had never really happened live on stage, only for the audience to respond with muffles and later on applause going about the night like nothing happened. He said that Will probably thought there'd be like a fun little skit that would come out of the incident, but instead, he just caught a man off guard while he was trying to do his job. Number 6. Jim Carrey. Now, when you see Jim's face, one of two emotions comes to mind: joy and confusion. Growing up, Jim was my idol. This dude was in every movie that I loved: Ace Ventura, The Mask, and yes, Bruce Almighty, okay? I was 8 years old and that guy made the moon bigger. That was cool. But as time progressed, he got more and more introspective. These days, Jim's either sharing his thoughts with a crowd, painting in his studio, or filming the latest Sonic movie. In 2022, he was on Twitter voicing his opinions on Will Smith. Jim, like many celebrities, stood against Will, only he used some very strong language that I really wish I could talk about, but I can't. But the one thing that I can say is that Jim Carrey was quoted as saying that he was sickened, not only by the actions of Will Smith, but by Hollywood celebrities who still gave him a standing ovation for his win as Best Actor. He said that Hollywood is just spineless en masse, and the moment felt like a very clear indication that Jim was no longer in the cool club. He continued to say that he believed Will should have been escorted out of the building the moment that his hand touched Chris Rock's face. There are security guards all over the place on the night of the Oscars, but because it was Will Smith walking on stage and not some rando, they decided that he was good to go. Jim claimed that Chris not pressing charges was ridiculous. If it had been him, he would have announced the morning after that he was suing Will for $200 million because that footage will exist forever. An insult that will last several lifetimes, well past either of their end dates. If Will wanted to yell from his chair or voice his pain somewhere else, that's fine. But what was not fine was walking up on stage in frustration and anger. Number 5, Wanda Sykes. During the Oscars in 2022, Chris Rock was introduced to the stage by two comedy legends, Wanda Sykes and Regina Hall. Wanda in particular remembers having to rush back to her trailer, but during that brief moment that she was gone, the incident went down. As she got back to the stage, Will Smith was already making his way back to his chair. When Wanda was told what had happened, she was devastated. She claimed that in the moment she felt physically ill and still is a bit shaken from the experience to this day. Wanda has acknowledged that Will had released an apology video, but that no one had apologized to herself or her fellow presenters. Wanda reminded Will that he was invited into her house while she was on stage, and while everyone else was on stage and tasked with presenting, Will was in their domain. He violated the rules and their trust when he walked up to Chris Rock. In fact, she revealed that she ran into Chris Rock backstage and he apologized to her. For like what? He said it was supposed to be her night, but that it now became about Will and Chris. Wanda was heartbroken when Chris felt like he had to say something when it wasn't even his fault in the slightest. Unfortunately, they were right, as when you look up the Oscars in 2022, there are much more articles about the two men rather than the three women. Number 4, Judd Apatow. Judd is a well-known director from some solid movies. This dude tends to be pretty good at his job. Following the Oscars incident, he released a series of tweets, one of which was a direct warning to Amy Schumer regarding Will and his slap, claiming it to be as soft as his raps. Judd Apatow tweeted that he believed if Will had put enough force behind his hand, that he might have actually ended Chris Rock's life, just judo chopping his head clean off. In a now deleted post, he continued to remind audiences that Will has heard many roasts over the years, probably millions of jokes about himself and his wife. They are freshmen in the world of comedy, and this guy needs to learn how to control his rage. If something that small could set him off, that's a problem. Judd is a man who is well known for having the ability to blend comedy and tragedy into one coherent story, but this incident hurt him on a personal level, and there was nothing that would stop him from trying to warn the rest of the world. Number 3, Howard Stern. Howard has always taken the opportunity to share his opinions every second of every day. When the Oscars audience clapped for Will rather than drowning him with a barrage of boos, Howard let his audience know that he was furious. The furiosity actually came from a fairly decent place. Following the Oscar situation, something similar happened to comedian Dave Chappelle, where he was on stage and rushed by a fan during his set. Dave was in the middle of a joke when an audience member ran towards the stage. Thankfully, they were taken out by security before anything too dangerous went down, but still. However, he continued and called Will Smith several mean words for being a major part of influencing the situation. There have been a handful of similar situations since, but Howard blames Will Smith for everything, creating a sense of concern for anyone who steps on a stage from here on out. Number 2. Olivia Jade. For those of you who may not know, Olivia is the daughter of Lori Loughlin from Full House, who was the lady who tried to bribe Olivia's way into school, but remember, she got caught and she was exposed. Following the exposing, Olivia appeared on Red Table Talk, Jada's terrible talk show that brings nothing but negativity into the world, and the conversation went horribly. Right off the bat, it was clear that Jada's mother did not want Olivia onto the show, complaining that she was the child of 2 people who paid $500,000 to get their kid into school, illegally through the athletic department to be specific. But it was also revealed that Olivia had reached out to the show, choosing it to be where she revealed her side of the situation. Miss Banfield Norris claimed that it was the epitome of white privilege and that she chose to come on a show led by 3 women of color, continuing to say that Olivia would be fine. But by the end of the conversation, Olivia had gotten the crew on her side and things ended well. She revealed that she hadn't spoken to her parents since they were arrested. And at number 1, Kris Jenner. A decade ago, Kylie Jenner and Jaden Smith were touting a very public friendship in the press. Behind the scenes, it's believed that they dated for a little while, but photos that the Daily Mail published of Jaden and Jenner emerged from a dark movie theater helped to seal their relationship narrative. In the viral photos, the stars walked closely as Jaden seemingly and unknowingly sported Jenner's foundation. Of course, bad lighting could have been the cause for the awkward pictures, but the logistics suggest that a very romantic movie date went down. Now, by 2019, Jordan Woods and Kylie Jenner were total BFFs, even though the Smiths family were basically her surrogates thanks to her late father's staff job on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Unfortunately, Jenner and Woods' friendship came crashing down in February of that year after Woods was accused of kissing Kristen Thompson, Khloe Kardashian's on and off again man friend who had recently fathered her first child. Needless to say, the news inspired worldwide hysteria, on social media at least, and while the world eventually got back to normal, Woods' relationship with the Kardashian family, especially Kylie and Khloe, was effectively done. But before Woods had the chance to regain confidence with the Kardashians, Jada Pinkett Smith made a noteworthy move on her social medias when she unfollowed the entire Kardashian family except for Kylie Jenner weeks after a Red Table Talk episode aired. What happened on that episode? Guess you'll have to find out in the next entry. Number 10. Cleopatra. This ill-fated TV series, Cleopatra, hit the air this year and received some of the worst reviews in human history. The show, produced and narrated by Jada, was released on Netflix and quickly became one of the most mocked properties on the platform. The series starred a woman of color in the leading role of the titular Egyptian, which caused many fans to call the casting choice cultural appropriation. Ironically, Cleopatra has almost always been played by a non-Egyptian actor, with Elizabeth Taylor being the most famous portrayal of all time. On top of the controversial casting choice, the overall show was terrible, and many complaints centered around the lazy dialogue, the bad acting, the historical inaccuracies. There is a ton of problems with this show, the main one being that it was set in the wrong time period while claiming to be a historically accurate series. Netflix had to deal with a lot of hardships thanks to the series, literally turning off the comments on the trailer due to the alarming amount of racially fueled and hostile commentary. The show sits at about 2% on Rotten Tomatoes and is unfortunately one of the few productions that Jada has under her belt. When a show that could have been great tanks hard and it's your fault, Hollywood tends to blame the producers. Number 9. Separation. Cheating rumors and dating scandals have followed this couple throughout their entire relationship. Since day one, people have been convinced that they're in an open relationship or that they've been cheating on each other on and off basically the entire time. But it turns out that those rumors were somewhat true. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada sat down with People magazine to share some inside info. The most revealing was that herself and Will Smith have actually been separated for 7 years. Despite appearing to be a happy couple on the outside, the truth was that they decided to go their separate ways, emotionally speaking, a long time ago. Since 2016, Jada and Will have been living in the same house and appearing on red carpets together, but behind the scenes they actually just don't do anything. They just sit at home and just kind of chill. Considering the massive size of Will's house, it's pretty easy to imagine Jada choosing her own section and decorating it to her liking. She continued to say that she felt pressured into being with Will because it was mainly his idea to get together in the first place. 2 kids, 1 marriage later, and here we are. Hollywood doesn't take too kindly to people who can't make up their minds. Number 8. Red Table Talk. For those of you who may not know, and lucky you, Jada ran a talk show for roughly 5 years called Red Table Talk. Unless you were glued to Facebook Watch, you probably missed out on this one. In 2018, Jada invited her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris, and daughter Willow Smith to join her in an open conversation spanning 3 generations of women. Unfortunately, her show tended to drift into too much information territory, discussing topics between the family that really shouldn't be talked about with family, especially on a camera. Another rough part of the series was that Jada would often bring in celebrity guests to also discuss these topics, as well as confront their issues that they might have had. She even brought her husband Will onto the show at one point just to discuss the infidelity scandal that had plagued their relationship. One of the most uncomfortable interviews in the show's history, and that is saying something. It was decided in April of this year that Red Table Talk would be cancelled and removed from the platform. When you have a show that you not only starred in but created from top to bottom, it's 100% your fault when it eventually gets cancelled. The show is currently looking for a new home in the world of streaming, but has yet to land on one, thankfully. Number 7. After Earth. In 2013, Jada helped produce a film starring her husband Will and her son Jaden Smith. Will Smith came up with the idea for After Earth while watching a science show on TV. It's very special. Eventually, this evolved into a science fiction story that takes place in the year 1000 AE, or 1000 years after the human race has left the planet because of pollution and global warming. The plot featured a father and his teenage son who crash land on Earth, and the teenager must save his injured father on what has become a hostile planet. Yeah, I got bored talking about it. Smith developed the movie as a star vehicle for his 14-year-old son Jaden. The actor sold his post-apocalyptic vision to M. Night Shyamalan, and this high-budget vanity project was just a family affair. There was Jaden, Will, Jada, and even Jada's brother Caleb Pinkett Smith was a key member of the production. The $130 million Smith family movie hit the big screen in 2013, and it was horrible and scored 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics lambasted basically every single detail, including the plot that was just boring and lifeless. Number 6. TMI. One thing that really did not need to be told to the entire world was the fact that Jaden Smith likes to do ayahuasca in his spare time and introduced his mother to the hallucinogen. In her tell-all interview promoting her tell-all book, she revealed that her son Jaden saved her life after introducing her to the ceremony during a dark time. While Jaden did not do it all the time, he had heard about the process and its benefits for mental health issues and suggested that, they give it a shot. She claims that after only a handful of uses that her negative thoughts went away. But Jaden has released a statement along with his sister begging their mother to stop saying things all the time, keep some family stuff private. Jaden did not need the entire world to know his business or the business of his friend who gave him the advice when the substance is super illegal in most parts of the US and, the world. Jaden has every right to ask for some privacy. His entire life has been broadcasted for the world to see since the moment he stepped in front of a camera. Jada, chill. Number 5. The Nutty Professor. The Nutty Professor is a comedy classic from the legendary performer Eddie Murphy based on a film from 1963 of the same name starring Jerry Lewis as the leading man. In the 96 remake, Jada Pinkett Smith portrayed Eddie's love interest Carla Purdy, and despite the film being this light-hearted romp sharing the message of self-love, people hated Jada in the movie. Of all the actors on the screen, Jada is the most out of place. While there wasn't a slew of massive A-listers on command, the cast involved did do a great job and everyone had their own little moments. However, Jada just kind of felt out of place. Her acting career has been limited over the years, and probably for good reason, especially when you put her next to a comedy legend like Eddie Murphy. That would be like putting Jim Carrey and a tired sloth in a room together and telling them to have a rap battle. Jim Carrey's gonna win. Her performance in the film was enough to make securing work hard in the following years, but as you've seen and will continue to see, Hollywood gave her a second chance time and time again. Number 4. Gotham. Gotham is an underappreciated series from the world of DC Comics, and I really recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's set in Gotham City before Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, and we follow a young Jim Gordon as he deals with the criminals roaming Gotham streets. People like the Riddler, the Penguin, and of course, Jada Pinkett Smith as mob boss Fish Mooney. DC is great with names. Fish. The character acted as the frenemy of the Penguin, but whenever Jada was next to her co-star, Robin Lord Taylor, she was outshined every single time. In fact, she was outshined by basically everybody on that show. Anyone she stood next, even the extras. Her character was meant to be a scary bad guy that strikes fear into the hearts of those who encountered her, but instead Jada delivers this monotone performance that the producers quickly noticed. By the end of season 3, Fish was written out of the story and left to rot on the dock. Number 3. Scream 2. I want to start off by saying Scream 2 is not a bad movie, okay? The Scream franchise is actually pretty solid and is considered to be one of the best horror series of all time. Ghostface is iconic, and so is Jada's only good scene in the film when she's taken out by Ghostface. Spoiler alert! In Scream 2, Jada Pinkett Smith plays one of the ill-fated teens, Maureen Evans. While this was actually one of her few decent performances, spoiler alert, I already said that, her character perishes towards the end of the movie. Yeah. She's taken out in a very graphic and public fashion. While watching the fictional Scream film in theaters, Jada cuddles up to who she thinks is her boyfriend, but is actually Ghostface in disguise. She gets repeatedly jabbed while the same thing is happening to a character on screen. And while this is one of the better scenes in Scream's history, it was the only scene where Jada came across as a good actor, and she was just kind of screaming and tumbling the whole time. The argument can be made that most young actors just kind of play themselves on screen, but sometimes it just feels like Jada forgot the camera was even rolling. Number 2, Oscars confusion. Now that all of this information about Jada and Will has been leaked into the world by Jada herself, one major question still lingers on everybody's mind. If she hasn't been with Will Smith for like 7 years, why did he feel that it was necessary to defend Jada and strike Chris Rock at the Oscars? Many fans have flooded social media with questions and concerns surrounding this incident from 2022. If you don't remember, Chris Rock made fun of Jada for being bald, and Will Smith went up on stage and he took care of him, you know? If he had been attending Chris Rock's stand-up special, who knows what would have happened. It was fantastic, but you gotta look that one up to know what I'm talking about. Despite Will claiming that playing the role of King Richard had left him in an odd mental state, it was really no excuse for his outburst, especially if he had not been romantically involved with Jada in years. The main point being made by some people online is that despite Will and Jada separating, they remained close friends. So in that instance, Will was defending his very good friend, but there's still no excuse for causing Marty the Zebra pain. Marty the Zebra from Madagascar. It's a great movie. Will has claimed that he tried to reach out to Chris following the Oscars, but that he was told that Chris wasn't ready to talk. Either that or he was ready, but he knew that he would fly off the handle the second that he heard Will's voice. And at number 1, her biases. When the Oscars So White controversy erupted in 2016, Will and Jada were among the most vocal critics of the Academy. For the second year in a row, all 20 of the actors nominated in the leading and supporting roles were white, something that hadn't happened since 1998. Jada released a very publicized video explaining why she was boycotting the Oscars that year, hoping to shine a spotlight on institutional racism. However, the majority of Hollywood didn't appreciate the things that she was saying about them, not to mention, during an episode of Red Table Talk, the actress confessed her own tendency to judge others based on their race, revealing that she specifically had a problem with white, blonde women. According to Jada herself, blonde hair on a woman just sets her off, and she's had to hold herself back a few times. She went on to reveal that she had actually turned down several interviews over the years just because the person who was interviewing her was a blonde white lady. She claims that her bias is due to her history of being bullied by women with those physical traits growing up. Regardless of why she hates them, blonde white women make up a lot of Hollywood, so kinda makes sense that Jada would be placed on the do not hire list. Number 10. Lena Waithe. Back when Tessa Thompson was speaking about her role in the failed Men in Black reboot Men in Black International, she praised Will Smith for his original role in the first film, paving the way for people of color in Hollywood being able to bring their identities to a studio film. But other celebrities felt that Will hadn't done nearly enough for the acting community. Lena Waithe directed the thriller Queen and Slim in 2019 and noted that Brad Pitt's production company funded critical black-led films like 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight, calling out Will and Jada for having their own production company, but often using it just to make movies for Will. She said that you would never catch her making $20 million a movie and not paying for at least 4 or 5 independent films. Waithe actually received a ton of backlash for the statements after fans accused her of gratuitous violence in Queen and Slim, and later in the Amazon series Them that she produced. Number 9. Jaden Smith. One thing that really did not need to be told to the entire world was the fact that Jaden Smith likes to do ayahuasca in his spare time and introduce introduced his mother to the hallucinogen. In her tell-all interview promoting her tell-all book, she revealed that her son Jaden saved her life after introducing her to the ceremony during a dark time. While Jaden did not do it all the time, he had heard about its benefits for mental health issues and suggested that they give it a shot. She claimed that after only a handful of uses, that her negative thoughts completely went away. Jaden has released a statement along with his sister, begging their mother to keep some things private at this time. Jaden did not need the entire world to know his business or the business of his friend when the substance is super duper illegal in most parts of the US. Jaden has every right to ask for some privacy. His entire life has been broadcasted for the world to see since the moment that he stepped foot in front of the camera. Number 8. Alyssa Farah Griffin. Co-host of The View, Alyssa Griffin wishes that Jada Smith would just stop airing her dirty laundry out for the entire world. On the talk show's Behind the Table podcast, she said that she always admired the married actors for their accolades, but just did not understand why they don't want to protect that. You know, why not keep things to yourself? Griffin added that Jada does not seem to care about Will's feelings and has neglected to consider him throughout this entire secret purge that she seems to be undergoing. She continued by calling her out for not filing a divorce despite being estranged and separated for 7 years, but Jada has always been adamant that she would never get a divorce no matter what the circumstances. But considering the past couple of weeks, we wouldn't be surprised if Will was filing that paperwork right now. Number 7. Willow Smith. Willow and her brother have had differing opinions on their parents for quite some time. As time's gone on, it's slowly been revealed that they basically raised themselves, with their parents being busy so often they were usually left into the care of nannies or assistants until their late teens. Willow and Jaden both moved on from the acting world that they were set up to take part in and instead carved their own paths. Willow has a solid music career and Jaden made waves in the world of fashion. Willow has responded to this information being released by her mother, and a lot like her brother, she just wishes that mom would stop telling everyone everything that they have ever done. It's not like they grew up in a super private environment, but they were able to keep some things to themselves, unlike her mother, who has to do a tell-all interview whenever she sneezes. Willow and her brother have publicly stated that they wish Jada would just leave their dad alone and keep private family stuff to herself. Number 6. Will Smith. Now, if there is anyone on this planet that has the right to not like Jada Pinkett Smith right now, it's her estranged husband Will Smith. Seeing as they've secretly been separated for 7 years, he surely holds some tinge of frustration towards Jada. This man has endured public humiliation several times, both because of himself and because of Jada. In the past week alone, Jada has been revealing so much information about her marriage to Will and what has really been going on behind the scenes. Not only were they separated, but it's been revealed that she was in love with the late rapper Tupac Shakur. Will has been blindsided by every little piece of information and is taking it as well as he can. Jada's book isn't even out yet, and this man is already so stressed out. Of course he is starting to truly hate Jada. Number 5. Chris Rock. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada Pinkett Smith has revealed a ton of information once thought to be just rumors. Now, while we already know that her and Will have been separated for a long time, another fun piece of information that got revealed was, well, fun might not be the right word. Unique, maybe. Anyway, it was revealed that before Chris Rock was struck across the face by Will Smith at the Oscars, that he actually asked Jada Pinkett Smith out on a date. Now, when you hear that, you're probably like, oh, he asked her out before they ever met. But no, it was actually back in 2016, at the height of the first round of separation rumors, which turned out to be true. At the time, Chris either had some inside information, or he is just the most confident man on the planet, because according to Jada, Chris reached out to take a swing. He called and said that he'd love to take her out, to which she responded, "But why though?" He clarified and told Jada that he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce for real, but when she revealed that that wasn't the case, Chris was so embarrassed he apologized over and over and over again. Chris responded to the revelation with nothing but fumes, and many believe that this could be one of the main reasons Will Smith did what he did at the Oscars. Number 4. August Alsina. The world was shocked when R&B singer August Alsina came forward to confirm one of the longest standing rumors around Jada and Will's marriage, admitting that he had an affair with Jada Pinkett Smith in 2015. During an interview, he claimed that he actually sat down with Will Smith and received his blessing due to the nature of their relationship shifting. He insisted that the couple had absolutely nothing to be ashamed of and that he loved the Smith family. family. While Will Smith denied ever giving him a blessing, in fact he didn't even know that this was a thing until he heard about it from Jada. Jada admitted to the entanglement on Red Table Talk when she explained to her husband that it was a moment she regretted, all the while referring to the infidelity as an entanglement. While many were of course confused as to why she would admit this on the internet for millions to see, they were also wondering if she might have taken advantage of August back in the day, because at the time he was only 22 and he had struggled with his health, suffering from an autoimmune condition that left him hospitalized multiple times. Jada even admitted to being his mentor at the time. Yikes. Number 3. Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle and Jada collided several times on the red carpet as their careers would often intertwine with each other. You might know Gabrielle from Bring It On or the comedy classic Meet Dave, and you might want to forget Jada from Scream 2 and The Nutty Professor. However, when they were together, there was just this awkward vibe. Apparently, Jada didn't speak to Gabrielle for 17 years of their interactions, and neither of them could figure out what caused it. Gabrielle claimed that there was just always tension between the two every time that they would see each other. Unexplained, it was just always there. A few years ago, Jada reached out to her to clear things up, and the conversation ended with them agreeing that they were both just divas at the time with diva mentalities. Jada invited Union on Red Table Talk, which is cancelled, and said that she needed to apologize for her behavior, claiming she was in a terrible place and is in a much better one now. Union later apologized on Today and shared that they were both insecure and that's what caused the rift. But it's very convenient that she was ready to talk once she had a platform to record the conversation onto. Make a little money while the celebrity apologizes to you online. Mint. Number 2. 50 Cent. Jada and her entanglement with August Alsina was news that shocked the world when it was revealed on Red Table Talk. For 50 Cent, this was the most annoying thing he has ever dealt with in his life. Following the revelation, social media users were flocking to Instagram, sharing their opinions and messaging their friends, including 50 Cent. He contacted Will, his buddy, and ended up cursing him out. 50 asked him why Jada said that on a show for the world to see, adding that she said only she can give permission for someone to blow her back out. Why did he have to use such crude language? Will responded with more swearing, and in October of 2021, 50 decided to comment on their marriage again, having the same issues that a ton of people are having with Jada right now, and that is that she's picking and choosing her moments to make things happen and revealing information about her book because it's stirring the pot. If you watch interviews where she reveals all the information, you can see her kind of zoning out and faking her way through her interactions, all the while just manically laughing in her head. 50 posted on his Instagram asking Jada why she had to share her life story with the world when it just called her character into question. And at number 1, Leah Remini. For those who don't know, Jada lives in a world of science. Now I can't talk about what that means. If you ever Google L. Ron Hubbard and science though, you will know what I'm talking about. Leah Remini, who you might know from King of Queens or Old School, is more than just an actor. She's also very outspoken against Jada's beliefs. The rumors that Will and Jada were big into science were something that Leah mentioned in her book, Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Weird Science, and brought it up again when speaking to the Daily Beast in 2017. She claimed to know for certain that Jada was involved for a long time. She had never seen Will Smith attending any events, however she did spot Jada attending one at the Celebrity Center in Hollywood. Jada clapped back on Twitter naming all of the houses of worship that she's visited without being a member. A year later, Leah appeared on the now cancelled Red Table Talk. I know you know it's cancelled, I just want to remind you. After the interview, Jada gushed about how they connected in the interview, claiming that there were just two broken little babies inside both of them who were abandoned by their parents, and Leah just thought that that lady was crazy. Number 10. Jaden Smith. In her tell-all interview promoting her tell-all book, Jada revealed that her son Jaden saved her life after introducing her to a certain ceremony during a dark time in her life. While Jaden did not do it all the time, he had heard about its benefits from mental health issues from a friend and suggested that they give it a shot. She claimed that after only a handful of uses that her negative thoughts just kinda went away. Jaden has released a statement along with his sister, begging their mother to keep some things private at this time. On top of their pleas to keep quiet, they also acknowledge that their parents have been separated for quite some time and they've known about it, so it's helping absolutely nobody if they stay together. Number 9. Eddie Murphy. Eddie and Jada starred together in the 1996 reboot of The Nutty Professor, a story about a heavy-set man played by Eddie Murphy who develops a serum that burns body fat, making him slender and confident confident. Smith played his love interest, and it turns out that her time on set was actually something she doesn't fully remember. On an episode of Red Table Talk, Jada admitted to having some serious substance control issues for a good portion of her life. She admitted that while filming this project, she would spend as much time as possible in an altered state, sometimes even while she was on set in front of the camera. On the day she passed out on set and when she came to, she simply told people that she must have had some old vitamins or something like that, when the reality was she was hopped up on too many happy pills. The moment stuck with Jada for a long time, and she claims that this was the last time substances would interfere with her work. Eddie Murphy caught wind of what his co-star had actually done, and he was not happy. The majority of filming was stressful, and the crew were in way too deep for the production to recast Jada and make things work. So Eddie isn't a big social media guy, but he's probably happy to know that Jada's secrets are being exposed left and right. Number 8, Leah Remini. When it comes to science and Jada Pinkett Smith, Leah Remini is probably the most outspoken against Jada. Smith claims to have very little involvement in the community. Rumors that Will and Jada were big into science have been around for years, and this is something that Leah mentions in her book. Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood, and Weird Science mentions Will and Jada a handful of times, but contains some interesting Jada information. Leah claimed to know for certain that Jada was involved for a long time. Now, she had never seen Will Smith attending any events, but she did spot Jada attending a few at the Celebrity Center in Hollywood. Jada clapped back on Twitter, naming all of the houses of worship that she has visited without being a member. Now, despite getting together on Red Table Talk while it was still on the air and clearing things up, Remini is still on the side of these two should just break up already and save each other the pain and confusion. Number 7, Keanu Reeves. Who could forget the Matrix movies? 3 wonderfully dark, futuristic sci-fi thrillers, and the 4th one. Fun fact about the first Matrix movie, the role of Neo was initially offered to Jada's husband, Will Smith. Will ultimately turned the role down and it went to Keanu Reeves. Instead of making The Matrix, Will went on to make the very underrated film Wild Wild West. It's just an extremely underrated action comedy set in the Old West. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Although Will decided to turn down the role, Jada felt that the project would be revolutionary for the film industry, and while she did eventually star in a sequel, she actually failed to get herself into the first movie. Jada wanted to play the character Trinity in the 1999 film and was even brought in to audition. She recalled failing the audition because she had absolutely no chemistry with Keanu Reeves. For a long time, she has been adamant that she has no idea why there was nothing there, but it seems as simple as the two just did not get along at first. In her memoir, she literally says that she doesn't think it was his fault and refers to him as Key several times, like they're buds. Between Jada's missteps and Will Smith denying the chance to appear in the project, Keanu is surely just counting down the days until these two split for good. Or he doesn't care because he's Keanu Reeves and he has better things to do. Number 6, Tom Segura. Tom Segura was one of the many celebrities who started bashing Will Smith after he ruined the Oscar ceremony in 2022. And I'm not gonna repeat what happened, alright? Go watch some of our other videos if you wanna know. Now, if you don't know what happened, Tom delivered a fiery take on the infamous moment, and I wish I could quote every single thing that he says because it is just so good. So I'm gonna paraphrase as best as I can. Addressing Will Smith directly, Tom said, "Let me tell you this. The idea that his entitled rear end thinks because his feelings are hurt that he gets to hurt one of the all-time greats." Then calling Will a spineless coward that was now on Hollywood's blacklist. Later on, while diving deeper into the situation on the Pat McAfee show, he explained that it was a clear move of entitlement. Will Smith in the moment just decided, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna get out of my chair and I'm gonna go strike Chris Rock across the face because he hurt my feelings. It was like something out of a horror movie. This was only something that was discussed behind closed doors in the comedy industry especially, but it was happening live on stage only for the audience to respond with muffles and applause, going about the night like nothing happened. Since the news that Jada is releasing a memoir became public, he's been urging this couple to sign their papers and stop this nonsense. Number 5, Tom Cruise. Is it really a surprise to learn that Tom Cruise has some celebrity buddies who like to ride with him from time to time? And I'm not talking about horses, no, I'm talking about motorcycles, man. I can't be cool saying motorcycles. It's one of Tom's favorite pastimes, apart from stunt working and of course couch jumping. After becoming friends on the set of the movie Collateral, Tom and Jada discovered that they had a mutual love of motorcycles and went riding with Tom on his dirt bike track. That's right, Tom loves riding so much that he has his own dirt bike track. Somehow that's the only normal thing about this guy. In her memoir, she shares that the two grew close. While Tom has never said it out loud, the stories that Jada tells weave a tale of love. One entry particularly sounds like something right out of a romance novel. One day, after trying to launch herself off of a ramp and failing miserably, Tom helped her up and suggested that they take a breather for the day. But Jada reminded him that it was Tom himself who told her never to give up. He helped her back on her bike, and they kept going. Over and over again in the memoir, there are stories of these two having a strong connection, so while Tom has never said it out loud, he's probably stoked that Will and Jada have officially announced their separation, leaving some room for old Tommy boy to squeeze in. Number 4, 50 Cent. Jada and her entanglement with August Alsina was news that shocked the world like a little tiny bit when it was revealed on Red Table Talk. For 50 Cent, this was the most annoying thing that he had ever had to deal with in his life, which is saying something. Following the revelation, social media users were flocking to Instagram, sharing their opinions and messaging their friends, including 50 Cent. He contacted Will Smith, his buddy, and the two ended up just cursing each other out the entire conversation. In October of 2021, 50 decided to comment on the marriage again, sharing his wish for Jada and Will to just leave each other for good so that he can stop reading about them while he's enjoying his morning brew. Number 3, Chris Rock. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada Pinkett Smith has revealed a ton of information that was just originally thought to be rumors. Now, while we already covered a lot of things, like Will Smith's been separated, in fact we have a whole top 10 list about that memoir, another fun piece of information that was revealed involved Chris Rock. It was revealed that before Chris Rock actually got struck across the face by Will Smith, he had asked Jada Pinkett Smith out on a date. Now, when you hear that, you're probably like, oh, he asked her out before they met. No, actually that situation took place in 2016 at the height of the first round of separation rumors, which turned out to be completely true. According to Jada, Chris reached out to take a swing. He called and said that he'd love to take her out, to which she responded, "But why though?" He clarified and told her that he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce, so he just kind of wanted to see what happened. Well, when she revealed that wasn't happening, Chris was so embarrassed. Of course Chris wants these two to split up. How else is he supposed to try asking her out again? Number 2, August Alsina. The world was shocked when August Alsina came forward to confirm a major rumor surrounding Jada and Will's marriage, admitting that he had an affair with Jada in 2015. During an interview, he claimed that he actually sat down with Will Smith and received his blessing due to the nature of their relationship. He insisted that the couple had nothing to be ashamed of and that he loved the Smith family just so much. While Will Smith denied ever giving him a blessing, in fact he didn't even know that this was a thing until he read about it, Jada admitted to the entanglement on Red Table Talk, where she explained to her husband that it was a moment she regretted, all the while referring to the infidelity as an entanglement, like 2 Christmas lights just trapped in a box. While many were of course confused as to why she would admit this on the internet for millions of people to see, they also started to wonder if she took advantage of August. At the time, he was only 22 and had struggled with his health, suffering from an autoimmune condition that left him hospitalized multiple times. Jada even admitted to being his mentor at the time. Sounds like a little bit of a weird relationship if you ask me. And at number 1, Will Smith. Now, if there is anyone on this planet that has the right to not like Jada Pinkett Smith, it's her estranged husband, Will Smith. Seeing as they've secretly been separated for 7 years, he is definitely holding some resentment towards Jada. This man has endured public humiliation several times, both caused by himself and by her. In the past few weeks alone, Jada has been revealing so much information about her marriage to Will and what's really been going on behind the scenes. Not only were they separated, but it was revealed that she was in love with rapper Tupac Shakur, but not really in love. People are Anyway, now of course Will isn't calling for himself to be divorced from his wife. That's crazy. But behind closed doors, this man is more than likely filling out the divorce papers as we speak. Number 10, Secret Son. While many know of the existence of Jaden and Willow Smith, did you know that Will Smith has a third son? Trey Smith was the product of Will's previous marriage to Cherie Zampino and tends to fly under the radar in the eyes of the media. In 2018, Jada brought Zampino onto her show and spilled the tea on the real story behind Trey, their relationship to each other, and Will's role as his biological father. For many Smith fans, this was the first time that we'd actually ever heard about Trey. Will claims that he had to distance himself from Trey and his mother father following the divorce. Will recounts struggling to maintain a healthy enough relationship with Zampino for him to play the role of Trey's father. Trey was raised by his mom alone, growing up feeling betrayed and abandoned by Will. Eventually, Will made amends and became a proper part of Trey's life, but for a long time, Trey was kept hidden from the public, surely leaving a stain on the family unit that will never be washed away. Number 9. 7-year separation. Cheating rumors and dating scandals have followed this couple through their entire relationship. Since day one, people were convinced that they were in an open relationship, or maybe they were cheating on each other on and off basically the entire time. Well, it turns out that those rumors were kind of true. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada sat down with People magazine to share some inside info. The most revealing was that herself and Will Smith had actually been separated for 7 years. Despite appearing to be a happy couple on the outside, the truth was they decided to go their separate ways, emotionally speaking, a long time ago. Since 2016, Jada and Will have been living in the same house and appearing on red carpets together, but behind the scenes they actually just don't do anything together. Considering the massive size of Will's house, it's easy to imagine Jada choosing her own little section and just decorating it to her liking. She continued to say that she felt pressured into being with Will because it was mainly his idea to get together in the first place, 2 kids and 1 marriage later, and it would appear that Jada finally came to her senses and decided to split. Number 8. Will's orientation. In 2012, Star magazine published an expose on Will that somehow stuck around for years. The outlet alleged that Will and his wife were headed for divorce because of his growing bromance with fellow actor Dwayne Martin, which was speculated upon due to the multiple outings that the pair shared in a short span of time. Because, people can't be buddies anymore. The rumor was only intensified when Jada expressed her dislike for their friendship, saying that she felt like Will flaunted it in her face. He takes Dwayne out all day and on exotic vacations, and while she just sits at home alone in her university-sized house. While it's never actually been confirmed, the fact that multiple sources accused Will of basically the same thing makes people believe that there may be some merit to the rumors, but who knows and who cares? Number 7. Will Smith almost ended his father's life. The Smiths are famous for getting into way too much detail when discussing their family history. Will Smith released a memoir called Will in 2021 that was chock full of juicy information that most certainly should have remained secret. One of the most shocking revelations in the book would have resulted in Will spending his life in prison had he followed through with his plans. The actor explained his father, Will Smith Sr., got physical towards himself and his mother constantly. As a young one, he vowed to seek revenge for his mother when he was older and capable of more. Eventually, his father was diagnosed with cancer, and Will was forced to take care of him while he was bedridden. Will saw this as the perfect opportunity to take Papa down. He wrote, "One night, as I delicately wheeled him from his bedroom towards the bathroom, a darkness arose within me." Ugh. He then went on to describe the moment that he contemplated pushing this man down the stairs and noted that no one would have suspected him and the moment would have been perfect. He wrote, "I am one of the best actors in the world. My 911 call could have been Academy Award level." Will ultimately decided not to end his father's life, obviously, instead taking care of him until he passed away in 2016. Number 6. Interview evidence. When Jada revealed the truth about her separation from Will, she claimed that by the time they reached 2016 that they'd just become exhausted with trying to make things work. The news of their separation was like a mild shock to most people, as Super Sleuth fans claimed to have proof that Will and Jada were separated a long time ago, and the proof is in the interviews. The first clip to be submitted as evidence was Will and Jada's Red Table Talk interaction, in which she admitted to the entanglement with musician Oxdalzina and simultaneously admitted to a brief separation between herself and Will. In the conversation, she literally says that herself and Will had basically broken up, but instead of just outright admitting the information right then and there, she decided to hold on to it for a better time. Many Jada fans have commented on the resurfaced clips, saying that Will looks drained, clearly dealing with a ton mentally. Jada is a calculated woman. Why reveal all the juicy gossip that she's got so early in her life when she could probably just wait and it'll help sell some books? She was probably ready to tell the world what happened as soon as it happened, but held onto the information as a way to give her a boost in the future if it was needed. Is it really a surprise that she's releasing all this information right when her book's coming out? Give them a scoop so they have to buy more and get the good stuff. Good move, but very manipulative, lady. Number 5. Gets busy to relax. While the Smiths have famously entangled with other celebrities throughout their marriage, Will once again shared just a bit too much information in his book Will, and at one point he made a not so shocking confession. When he was younger, Will was dating a woman named Melanie, who he discovered was cheating on him while he was away from work. Smith was deeply attached to his former girlfriend and to just women in general. In his book, Will writes that he always needed a woman to achieve for. Prior to Melanie, Will had only been with one other woman physically. But following the breakup, Will claims to have gone hyena mode over the next few months, making love to anyone who would consent. At first using this as a way to relax and feel better about the relationship, it eventually grew into a full-fledged addiction, to the point where Will claims to have suffered a psychosomatic reaction from the escapades, causing him to occasionally vomit the moment he reaches completion. Again, I didn't need that image in my head, I didn't need to know that, but since I have to suffer, now you have to as well. Number 4. That's what she said. As we all know by now, Will Smith doesn't like Chris Rock putting his wife's name in his mouth, okay? After the altercation that took place in 2022 at the Oscars, a ton of people were convinced that it was Jada who told Will to do it. Will was laughing moments before taking the stage and doing his thing. According to Jada, she actually had zero part in the altercation and thought that the entire thing was a skit right up until she saw Will walking back towards her. The fury in this man's eyes could not be faked. She revealed that she actually didn't mind the G.I. Jane joke all that much. I mean, sure, she didn't appreciate it, but according to her, she in no way told Will Smith to strike her Madagascar co-star. The first thing that she had actually apparently said to him when he sat down was just, "Are you okay?" He went up to accept his award for Best Actor and later apologized for his actions. Despite the apology, he was banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years, and so far, he has not spoken to Chris Rock face to face. Number 3. Weird science. Now, while I can't say what this belief system is actually called, it's usually spoken in reference to Hollywood madman Tom Cruise and involves L. Ron Hubbard, so that should be enough for you to piece it together. Jada Pinkett Smith was briefly involved in the community and still partakes in some of its methods to this day. Jada and the rest of her family have often been linked to the controversial religion, though no members apart from Jada have ever actually admitted to being involved in any way, shape, or form. While Jada denies that she is a full-fledged member, the facts are she's been spotted attending several church events over the years. Former member Leah Remini backed up the claims of Jada's involvement, telling the Daily Beast that she herself interacted with Jada at an event taking place at the Science Celebrity Center. Essentially a giant room with famous nutcases, and Tom Cruise probably has an apartment in there. If you want proof that the Smiths are involved in the religion, the family literally founded a school that contained an exclusively science-based curriculum. That'd be like me opening a library containing just the Twilight books and being like, "Man, what are you talking about? I freaking hate Twilight. Why does everybody think I like Twilight so much?" Number 2, they actually suck. While rumors plagued Will and Jada from the moment that they were married, their careers never seemed to suffer at all. In fact, some would argue that Will was slowly taking over the Hollywood world, starring in movies like the Men in Black franchise, I Am Legend, and Bad Boys. It wasn't until he struck Chris Rock at the Oscars ceremony live in front of the world that the truth began to be revealed. Will exposed himself as an impulsive and aggressive man, hidden behind a big smile. When Chris insulted Jada Pinkett Smith by joking about his excitement for G.I. Jane in the movie, Will initially laughed, but of course he went on stage and we all know that he didn't find it funny. Will won Best Actor that night, but it would be the last good thing that ever happened to this man. The Academy banned him from attending any events in the next 10 years, he's been blacklisted in Hollywood, and Jada's talk show on Facebook was cancelled. So it turns out the most sane people in the Smith family are Will's kids, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. Number 1, Oscars confusion. Now that all this information is being leaked into the world by Jada herself, one major question was still lingering on everyone's minds. If she hasn't been with Will for 7 years, why did he feel like it was necessary to defend her and strike Chris Rock at the Oscars? Many fans have flooded social media with questions and concerns surrounding the incident. Now, if you don't remember, how? Chris Rock made fun of Jada for being bald, Will Smith went on stage and took him out for it, the end. Now, if Will Smith had been attending Chris Rock's stand-up special that came out earlier this year, who knows what would have happened? It was fantastic, you should really check it out. Despite Will claiming that playing the role of King Richard had left him in an odd mental state, it really was no excuse for his outburst, especially if he had not been romantically involved with Jada in years. The main point being made by some is that despite Will and Jada not being together romantically, that they remained close friends, and in that instance, Will was defending his very good friend, right? But that's still no excuse for causing Marty the zebra pain. Man, I love Madagascar. You should check it out. Will has claimed that he tried to reach out to Chris following the Oscars, but that he was told Chris wasn't ready to talk. Either that, or he was ready but knew that he would just fly off the handle the moment that he heard Will Smith's voice. Number 10. The Secret Son. While many know of the existence of Jaden and Willow Smith, did you know that they have a third son named Trey? Trey Smith was the product of Will's previous marriage to Cherie Zampino, and he tends to fly under the radar in the eye of the media. In 2018, Jada brought Zampino on her show and spilled the tea on the real story behind Trey, their relationship to each other, and Will's role as his biological father. For many Smith fans, this was the first time that they'd actually heard about Trey. Will recounts struggling to maintain a healthy enough relationship with Zampino for him to play the role of Trey's father figure. Trey was raised by his mom alone, growing up feeling betrayed and abandoned by Will. Eventually, Will made amends and became a proper part of his life, but for a long time he was kept hidden from public, surely leaving a stain on the family unit that will never be washed away. Number 9. Dwayne Martin. Making its way in the news cycle this week is of course the news that Will and his wife Jada are planning to sue Will's former assistant brother Bilal for making claims that he caught Will Smith and his friend Dwayne Martin getting busy behind closed doors a long time ago. Smith was married to Jada at the time of this so-called interaction, but he did not disclose those details until about a week or so ago. While doing an interview with Tasha K, Bilal told her that he opened the door to Dwayne's dressing room after not being able to find Will anywhere, despite his car being parked outside of their studio. And when he opened the door, he saw Will bent over a couch and Dwayne was behind him. A representative for Will Smith said that this story is completely false and fabricated for clicks and views. The legal action is a swift move and one made based on a fair point. One thing to have an opinion on someone, but it's a whole different thing when you call their orientation into question. So far, there is no new news on how Dwayne feels about this. The only news that we do have is that the suit has been confirmed and actions are being taken. The Smiths have been in the news for lots of things this year, and honestly, there's not a lot more I can say about the whole Dwayne and Will situation, so let's just chat about some general revelations of Will Smith's secrets from the past, shall we? Number 8. He likes to get busy to relax. While the Smiths have famously entangled with other celebrities through their marriage, Will once again shared a bit too much information in his new book, Will. At one point, he made a not-so-shocking confession. When he was younger, Will was dating a woman named Melanie, who he discovered was cheating on him while he was away for work. Smith was deeply attached to his former girlfriend and to women in general. In his book, Will writes that he will always need a woman to achieve for. Prior to Melanie, Will had only been with one other woman, physically speaking. But following the breakup, Will claims to have gone full hyena mode over the next few months, making love to anyone who consented. At first using this as a way to relax and feel better about the relationship, this eventually grew into a full-fledged addiction, to the point where Will claims to have suffered a psychosomatic reaction from the escapades, which causes him to occasionally vomit when he reaches completion. I didn't need to see that in my head, but since I have to, now you do. So, number 7, orientation. In 2012, Star Magazine published an expose on Will that somehow stuck around for a while. The outlet alleged that Will and his wife were heading for divorce because of his growing bromance with fellow actor Dwayne Martin, which was speculated on due to the multiple outings the pair shared in a short span of time. The rumor was only intensified when Jada expressed her dislike for their friendship, saying that she felt like Will flaunts it in her face. He takes Dwayne out all day and on exotic vacations, while she is just sitting at home alone in her university-sized house. While it's never actually been confirmed, the fact that a lot of people have accused Will of basically the same thing makes a lot of people wonder if this whole Dwayne Martin thing might actually have some merit to it. Number 6, the 7-year separation. Cheating rumors and dating scandals have followed this couple through their entire relationship. Since day one, everyone was convinced that they were in an open relationship or that they were cheating on each other on and off. But it turns out all those rumors were 100% true. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada sat down with People magazine to share some inside information, and the most revealing was that herself and Will Smith have actually been separated for like 7 years, despite appearing to be happy on the outside. The truth was they decided to go their separate ways, emotionally speaking, quite some time ago. Since 2016, Jada and Will have been living in the same house and appearing on red carpets together, but behind the scenes, they actually just don't do things together, considering the the massive size of Will's house, it's easy to imagine that Jada just chose her own section and decorated it to her liking. She continued to say that she felt pressured into being with Will because it was mainly his idea to get together in the first place. 2 kids and 1 marriage later, and it seems like Jada has finally come to her senses, and hopefully they'll split up sometime soon because they're not a good couple. Number 5. Will Smith almost ended his father's life. The Smiths are famous for getting into way too much detail when it comes to their family history. Will Smith released a memoir called Will in 2021 that was chock full of juicy information that most certainly should have remained a secret. One of the most shocking revelations in the book would have resulted in Will spending his life in prison had he followed through with his plan. The actor explained that his father, Will Smith Sr., got physical towards himself and his mother constantly. As a child, he vowed to seek revenge for his mother and himself when he was older and capable of more. Eventually, his father was diagnosed with cancer, and Will was forced to take care of him while he was bedridden. Will saw this as the perfect opportunity to take Papa down. He wrote, "One night, as I delicately wheeled him from his bed towards the bathroom, a darkness arose within me." He then went on to describe the moment that he contemplated pushing that man down the stairs, and noted that no one would have suspected him at the moment, and it was just perfect. He wrote, "I'm one of the best actors in the world. My 911 call would have been an Academy Award level." Will ultimately decided not to end his father's life and instead took care of that man until he passed away in 2016. Number 4. Oscars confusion. Now that all the information that's been leaked into the world about Jada herself, Will, all this stuff, there is still one major question that a lot of people have on their minds. If Will and Jada haven't been together for 7 years, why did he feel like it was necessary to defend her and strike Chris Rock at the Oscars in 2022? A lot of fans flooded social media with questions and concerns surrounding the incident. If you don't remember, Chris Rock made fun of Jada being bald, Will took him out for it, and the story. If he had been attending Chris Rock's stand-up special, who knows what would have happened. It's so good, but we'll talk about that in another list. Despite Will claiming that playing the role of King Richard had left him in an odd mental state, it really was no excuse for the way he acted, especially if he hadn't been involved with Jada romantically in years. The main point being made by some is that despite Will and Jada separating, they have remained close friends, and in that instance he was just defending his good friend, but it's still no excuse for making Marty the zebra cry. Man, Madagascar is a great movie. Will has claimed that he tried to reach out to Chris following the Oscars, but he was told that Chris just was not ready to talk, and so far it seems like neither of them have actually spoken to each other. It's either that or that Chris Rock was ready, but he knew he would fly off the handle the moment he heard Will Smith's voice. Number 3. Dating Chris Rock. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada Pinkett Smith revealed a ton of information that were once thought to just be rumors. Now, while I've already talked about the fact that they were separated for a while, another fun piece of information that was revealed was that she actually was once involved with Chris Rock. Now, I don't know if fun's the right word to use. Maybe unique. Anyway, it's been revealed that before Chris Rock was slapped across the face by Will Smith, live at the Oscars, he actually had asked Jada Pinkett Smith out on a date. Now, when you hear that, you must be thinking, oh, hey, it was probably before they ever met. No, the situation actually took place in 2016 at the height of the first round of separation rumors, which it turned out were true. At the time, Chris either had some inside info or he must believe everything he reads online, because according to Jada, Chris reached out to take his shot. He called and said, hey, he'd love to take her out on a date, and she was like, why? He clarified and told Jada that he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce for real, and when she revealed that that wasn't actually the case, Chris was just embarrassed and apologizing profusely. Though they eventually moved past that moment, it might explain why Will Smith was so aggressive with Chris at the Oscars. You know, there's no way that he was unaware of what happened. Speaking of Chris and Will, number 2, Chris and Will were friends. Before the infamous 2022 Oscars thing, Chris Rock and Will Smith were actually on pretty good speaking terms. They weren't like best friends by any means, but they certainly weren't mortal enemies prepared to strike each other down at the mention of one of their wives. They first met on the set of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back in its heyday, with Rock playing 2 characters, an actor named Maurice Perry and his sister Jasmine. They bumped into each other over the years, but Chris eventually starred alongside Jada in Madagascar, which I will never stop talking about. It's fantastic. I didn't know that growing up that Jada was in that movie because I don't read the credits. I'm too cool. Between Madagascar and the Oscars in 2022, things were fairly neutral and there was no bad juju between these people. But then suddenly, at the behest of his wife Jada, Will felt that it was necessary to stand up and defend her name with physical violence. And at number 1, Jaden and Willow. Rumors have been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden basically raised themselves. Their upbringing was nothing to scoff at. Jaden was on track to being an actor after being in the 2008 remake of The Karate Kid, alongside martial arts and opera legend Jackie Chan, but later shifted his focus to more entrepreneurial things, developing his own fashion brand, which has garnered him a ton of success. His sister Willow opted to stick with her creative roots, however, and has made quite the name for herself in the hip-hop genre. Now, unfortunately, their behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden confronted his parents, calling out their terrible parenting skills. With both being so busy in their careers, they were never home to care for their youngsters. In fact, Jada and Willow recount spending most of their childhood with various nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents between projects or if they were working with them, like when Jaden and Will were in The Pursuit of Happiness together. It turns out that they were well aware of the whole separation thing from the very beginning. Will and Jada must have just been waiting until the kids were financially independent and out of their house to finally call it quits, something they probably should have done a lot sooner.
At number 10, we have Snoop Dogg. The reason he was invited onto the show was actually because Jada wanted to have a conversation with him about his previous actions. When Kobe Bryant passed away in the accident, Gayle King had a lot to say about it. She had mentioned a court case that he had been a part of decades ago, before he married his wife and before he became famous. So Snoop Dogg, being the down-to-earth and honest person he is, gave Gayle a piece of his mind because her comments were highly unprofessional and unnecessary as well. So Jada, in retaliation, had him on the show. And she said that when he was insulting Gayle, she felt like she was being personally attacked by his comments, even though it had nothing to do with her. Jada claimed that by calling Gayle names and saying she needed to watch herself, Jada thought that meant Snoop was stripping her power away from her as a woman, and away from her mother and her daughter. As a woman, she felt demeaned. So even though she had nothing to do with what happened between Snoop and Gayle, she had forced herself into the situation and got Snoop on her show just to tell him how she really felt. Even though it was Gayle who started the feud and brought up things that didn't need to be said, Jada managed to convince Snoop Dogg he was in the wrong. At number 9, we have Sandra Bullock. She was a guest star on the show and had actually opened up about her 2 children and her partner. She admitted that her partner didn't have to do with the adoption of her daughter, but is still very supportive of all of them. She talked about how she tries to keep her children out of the spotlight because she doesn't want to scar them for the rest of their lives, considering her son was already uncomfortable with the thought of fame. Something she mentioned was that she wished her and her adopted daughter's skin was the same shade as hers because it would make them look more approachable. Considering the podcast is hosted by mothers and daughters, it makes sense to open up about that kind of thing about them. But the way she phrased that comment raised some eyebrows. At number 8, we have Tiffany Haddish. She has received backlash from many different things, from getting snippy with interviewers to continuously trying to take photos with Shakira. So when she was on Red Table Talks, it got real, and they got into the discussion of hair, since Tiffany Haddish has begun shaving her head as well. She claimed that she had really started to fall in love with herself again because she could properly see her features. And to boost her own ego, she said that God did a good job putting her together. She had self-confidence issues because the past few guys she had been with all had opinions on her hair. So a man can't have an opinion on your hair if you don't have any. It's good that they can all come together over that, but they are bald for very different reasons. And at least Tiffany can take a joke about her hair, unlike Jada. At number 7, we have Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is a very honest person. He's very blunt, but he is also very funny. So to have him on the podcast sounded like a recipe for disaster. Well, believe it or not, it was Will who hosted the episode because he and Kevin had one thing in common: an internal affair affecting their lives. It was funny because Kevin actually showed up an hour late to the show, no doubt because of lack of interest in the topic, or scared that he too would make a joke and get smacked for it. Well, they both got along, and it actually went pretty well. From them talking about having an affair and how it's affected the kids, and how things he said years ago are resurfacing and taking a toll on his personal life. They also talked about how it's important to be real with your kids first because it's gonna end up on the internet somehow. Then everyone will know, including them. That seemed to be the downfall for both of them. At number 6, we have Paris Jackson. She is actually one of Willow's friends who agreed to be on the show. They share some things in common, like both being daughters of famous musical artists or actors, and Paris being Michael Jackson's daughter and all. They also share a common list of mental illnesses, struggling to find who they are because they were forced to live in their parents' shadow, their relationship preference, just girly things. The entire episode was them talking about how awful it was to have famous parents. Paris talked about how she has severe paranoia because she hears paparazzi clicks when there's no one there, and how it caused severe depression. The entire thing gets into their first world problems and how mentally damaging it was. We know they're both Nepo babies, which is why they get along so well. They both find they struggle with mental illnesses brought upon them by their parents, considering Paris is the ungrateful daughter of the incredible Michael Jackson. No one can control what you're born into, but with lavish lifestyles like theirs, neither of them are really in a place to complain about anything. Unless it's, of course, how terrible it is to have famous parents. At number 5, we have Matthew McConaughey. Jada set up a Zoom meeting between him and one of his coworkers from 35 years ago. In his memoir, Green Lights, he had talked about a woman he worked with named Tammy, who he claimed opened his eyes to new cultures. He described her as black and beautiful as midnight, and a rock star waitress who had men, including him, thinking they really had a chance when she only did it so they'd tip more. Jada tracked her down and invited her to the Zoom meeting, and he was actually pretty ecstatic. It was a very sweet gesture, and they actually both seemed to have a great time with it. At number 4, we have Demi Moore. Jada invited her onto the talk show with her daughters to talk about generational trauma, which is a very hefty topic, especially coming from a parent who was sleeping with her son's friend. Demi got into how her mother's mental and physical impact was objectively passed down to her daughters because it's what she's known and what she grew up with. Jada admitted they are in the process of healing from generational trauma as well, so she called out her own mother on the podcast, which in any normal circumstance probably wouldn't go very well. The entire situation was about being transparent about motherhood and knowing you traumatized your own children because of your fame and poor choices. To add to the point about Demi Moore and her mother's struggle with substances, Jada said that she too suffered from generational trauma because her mother was similar when she was younger, by forcing her to get married to Will Smith when she didn't want to. The fact that she was willing to talk about generational trauma in front of her mother, whom she hosts the show with, was really shocking, considering her mother forcing her to marry Will was probably the best choice she could have made, because now she has her whole life set up for her, even if Jada wants to run around with other people. You can't blame a mother for wanting what's truly best for her daughter, even if it makes her unhappy. At number 3, we have Keanu Reeves. Somehow, they managed to have 100 episodes, and for the 100th, they had Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss on the show. Well, in the interview, he's barely mentioned. He's just there to be there, because it was like a mini cast reunion. In the reviews of the episode, it's all about Carrie-Anne Moss and Priyanka Chopra, but Keanu isn't even mentioned once in the summary of the episode. It seems like he was invited as filler, just so Jada can get the views she's desperate for. At number 2, we have Gwyneth Paltrow. It was the interview with Gwyneth Paltrow that got her in hot water to begin with. Gwyneth didn't call her out, but she became a safe space for her to open up, which made her look even more like the bad guy. They were opening up about their relationship issues, and that was when Jada said that she wanted Will to read her mind to know what she liked, rather than communicating her feelings like an adult. She claimed that she expects her partner to know what she likes, even if she never verbally shared how she felt. Then finished off that little segment by saying she just somehow wasn't satisfied with him. Gwyneth got into what life was like with her husband, and what it was like being an almond mom. One way or another, we all feel bad for their kids. And last but not least, at number 1, we have Facebook. This one is kind of a stretch, because the situation is still unfolding. Apparently, Facebook has canceled Red Table Talks on Facebook original videos because they're gonna shut it down altogether. They're following the path that Google made by focusing more on user-generated content instead of celebrity-related content, because there are many other platforms for that. They have bigger and better plans for Facebook instead of Red Table Talks. So Jada claimed the channel is still looking for a new home. Overall, it may be best for the show to be put on hold until they find a new platform for it.